the complexity of finding purpose, meaning, and morality in the face of cultural environmental crisis. And spoiler alert, there will be a discussion of philosophical themes from the Hulu show, The Good Place. Welcome, Pip.
Thank you. One of my favorite songs right now is titled Monument, and it's by a band called Angels in Agony. The first verse goes something like this. If there was a greater day to come, call it judgment, call it fate. Moments of facing what we've done, our past can't be undone. In the light of our demise, when the final hour has come, when we hesitate to claim for all of us. And then the chorus rises up, this is who we are. Forged by heaven and earth, made of blood and bone, our soul is divine. This is what we long for, this is what we dream. We'll never surrender and never give in. To me, this speaks of the moment we are at in this time in history. We face destruction and devastation, chaos and uncertainty. How do we find the thread? How do we find the path that starts where we are and leads to a future that we can be proud of creating? As the song says, moments of facing what we've done, our past can't be undone. It's important that we reckon with how all of this came to be. Everything that is happening is a natural extension of what came before. Fascism and genocide are rooted in settler colonialism and white supremacy. Settler colonialism is rooted in religious supremacy and a history of feudalism. The present moment is not divorced from the past, but an outgrowth of what's gone before. It is possible to look at how our history led to this current moment in time without shame or despair. This honest looking at that past is crucial so that we can engage in true transformation and reconciliation. I've been a Unitarian Universalist for 12 years, a pagan for 25 years, and a Norse pagan or heathen for 6 years. Because almost all of my ancestors hail from the areas that are now called Scandinavia and Germany, I find rootedness in looking at the beliefs of ancient Norse peoples. It gives me a sense of continuity and perspective, a sense of identity and direction. The Norse concept of fate is called Weird, spelled W-Y-R-D. W-Y-R-D. Weird is not predestination. Weird is not an idea that everything has already been decided. Weird is an interconnected web of interactions that influence how time moves. Weird is driven by two forces called Orlog and Hamingja. Orlog is the external physical world, all that came before us, the circumstances we were each born into, including our family's background. It includes the history of the nations and states we live in. It includes the way that prejudices were created on purpose to divide working class and poor people. It includes broken treaties and slavery, emancipation, civil rights legislation, the war on crime, the war on drugs, the war on terror, the creation of ICE. It includes mountains being eroded by time, continents drifting, ice ages that have passed, and your ancestors, all of our ancestors working and living and loving. All of these things influence our lives and influence who we are. The other major force that drives Weird is Hamingja. Hamingja is our personal capacities. These include creativity, energy, motivation, intelligence, magnetism, luck. Hamingja is our capacity to make change. It is finite, it is not unlimited, but it exists. We each have the power to create some amount of change. The choices we make, how we exert that capacity for change, how we exert our hymnia, the way we apply ourselves, has the potential to shape or log that existing reality moving forward. Fate, or weird, comes from how we face the times that we are in. Hymnia is individual, but can also be combined. If many people pool their hymnia, their capacity for change, they can have so much more capacity to change the world. The topic of my sermon is called Finding the Thread. In this, I mean a metaphorical thread of how we find our way forward into a fate we can be proud of. But also, I mean identifying the thread that we are already living and defining it honestly and accurately. Norse cosmology, or view of the universe, is that the universe is centered around a world tree called Yggdrasil. The 9 worlds all live on and are sustained by that tree. At the root of the tree live the Norns, 3 goddesses who are similar to the Greek goddesses of the Fates, and the 3 Norns speak time into existence into the tree. The first is Urd, which represents the past, all that has made this moment. Verdandi represents what is becoming, which is translated as the present moment, and the present moment is all we ever really have. And Skuld is the Norse word for what shall be, or the future. Interestingly, Skuld also means debt, in the sense that the future is the debt of the present. The choices we make now unfold into the future as orlog, just as the choices others made in the past led to the realities of the current moment. Understanding the continuity of time in this way can help us understand what we do have power over and what we do not have power over. The song Monument continues. We can't say we've not been warned. We can't deny we've seen the signs, closing our eyes and turning away from how we've defined ourselves. How can we change our ways in time? Let this few words be our hymn. Maybe our righteous future is yet to come. I am on a journey to become a minister because I feel so much love for this complicated, messy, and hurting world we live in. There are so many wrongs that needed to be righted, so many wounds that need healing, and injustices that need challenging. This same beautiful, complex world that we live in is filled with potential, possibility, hope, energy, creativity, and love. My natural disposition is one of hope, even against massive odds. I see love as a verb, and I see hope as a verb. And I see neither as passive states. I choose to love. I choose to hope. I choose to love and live hope with my actions. The song continues, this is who we are, forged by heaven and earth, made of blood and bone. Our soul is divine. This is what we long for. This is what we dream. We'll never surrender and never give in. In my studies of Norse religion and belief, I've been fascinated at how stories of a people reveal their beliefs. For instance, in Nordic cosmology, that Yggdrasil is the world tree, as I mentioned, and in this cosmology, the future is going to end in flames at the end of the world, which the Norse people call Ragnarok. I'm not suggesting that we all believe in Ragnarok. I'm just bringing up as an example of understanding a people's belief. This prophecy of Ragnarok was made to Odin in great and specific detail, and Odin believed in it. And yet neither Odin nor any of the other gods resigned themselves to Ragnarok or to losing at Ragnarok. And people who die in battle in this cosmology go to one of 2 afterlives. The Norse had several afterlives when people died based on how you died, not morality. But the people who died in battle go to one of two afterlives, and in both afterlives, they spend eternity preparing for Ragnarok, a battle they are bound to lose. But that doesn't stop them from training. This reveals how the Norse look at their own fate. Even when the odds are stacked against them and loss seems certain, they always keep fighting. And I think this lesson applies today. Today, things look grim. War, genocide. Just a few months ago, there was a thunderstorm blizzard predicted near my home in Chicago. We're having weird and severe storms, rising seas. But hope is a choice. Hope is an action. We can choose to act out hope and continue building a world that is nurturing for all of us. So far, I've talked about the past and the future. The thread I'm looking for, the thread from where we are to where we want to be, that starts by understanding the past. Because if we examine the past to understand why things are the way they are now, then we find what thread we are even on. When we choose to have hope, active hope that is determined to fight for the future, where all of us have what we need, then we know which way we want the thread to go. No matter the odds, we can keep going. Or as my grandpa would say, keep on keeping on. I preached last year here about manifesting hope with creativity by imagining the future in great and specific detail. And that's a solid practice. But what about the present moment? What about the here and now? How do we find our path in a world that is so complex, often confusing and chaotic and uncertain? I would like a quick show of hands. How many people here have seen the show The Good Place? Okay. Everywhere I've preached this so far, it's been about half. And this holds true. About half of you have seen The Good Place. Of the people here. I'm not sure people on Zoom. The Good Place is a streaming show that ran 2016 through 2020, starring Kristen Bell as Eleanor Shellstrop and William Jackson Harper as Chidi Etagonye. I've watched the complete series twice. I will be discussing it, and there will be a little bit of spoilers, but I'll try not to spoil too much. Eleanor is the protagonist, aka main character, and throughout the series, we see her change and grow. While Chidi Etagonye is not the main character, in my opinion, he's the most interesting character. The show is about two afterlives. They are called the Good Place and the Bad Place. And it's important to note that these are not representing heaven and hell. The show states that they are not heaven and hell. This is not based on Christianity or any religion. The show is not about religion. The show is not about deities or gods. The show, The Good Place, is about moral decision-making. Chidi is a moral philosophy professor, and a recurring punchline is, this is why everybody hates philosophy professors. Chidi will make a simple conversation way too complicated, and someone will quip, this is why everyone hates moral philosophy professors. Chidi makes almost everything into a moral philosophy discussion, which is a natural gift in a world determined by moral choices. In this story universe, the good place is for those who make moral choices, and the bad place is for those who make immoral choices. So Chidi's ability to discern morality is crucial to the story itself. Chidi himself is an extremely conflicted person. He is so agonized with the weight of always trying to make the most moral choice that he has difficulty making any decisions at all. Even deciding what kind of bagel to eat can send Chidi into a spiral. Moral philosophy itself almost becomes a character in the show, as the characters try to understand what qualifies as good enough behavior to get into the good place and what does not. They end up concluding that it's actually impossible to live a perfectly moral life in modern culture because everything is so complicated. This is why Chidi gets so frozen and panicked when faced with even the simplest choices. Perfect morality is impossible. And this is one reason why a thorough analysis of the world's problems and how we got here is so important. When we individualize our problems, when we think that we ourselves have somehow failed, when we are unable to live perfectly moral lives, then we avoid the reality that we live in a world of systems, many of which are beyond our control. As one example, recycling. I recycle. I like to recycle. I like that I recycle, and it's important to me. But even if every person on the planet recycles at home, it's not going to save us from the environmental destruction we're facing. And I'm not saying that to discourage us or to try to convince us not to recycle. But I'm pointing out that the industries of the world that hold the majority of power create the vast majority of pollution. And then media campaigns are created to make us as individuals and communities feel like the responsibility lay on individuals. Then there's a problem. Chocolate. I love chocolate. And if you do some research on chocolate, you'll find that it's very difficult to find truly ethical chocolate. Go on Netflix and look it up. There's documentaries about the problems of the chocolate industry. And that's the way the industry has been set up. So much of our life is like that. We cannot entirely avoid complicity. And I urge us not to take it personally or to feel like this is all due to personal shortcoming or that we've somehow failed as individuals. This is the way the world has been set up, mostly by people in power. So I'll bring us back to the first verse and the chorus of that song, Monument. If there was a greater day to come, call it judgment, call it fate. Moments of facing what we've done, our past can't be undone. In the light of our demise, when the final hour has come, when we hesitate to claim for all of us. This is who we are, forged by heaven and earth, made of blood and bone. Our soul is divine. This is what we long for. This is what we dream. We'll never surrender and never give in. In The Lord of the Rings, at a moment of anguish and fear, Frodo says to Gandalf, I wish it need not have happened in my time. And Gandalf says, so do I. And so do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that has been given to us. We have been given the circumstances or the orlog of our time, the reality that came before us and that built the world we're living in. If we observe this orlog honestly, we can have a better sense of what is possible. And we have our own individual capacities for change, our heminia, which we can pool. We can combine our power to have greater capacity for change. And like the warriors preparing for Ragnarok, I urge us to choose the actions of hope and choose the actions of love. We don't need guarantees in order to act. Our sense of purpose can come from knowing that we are people who are choosing to act. There is a dignity, power, and pride that come from continuing to do what is right, even when it's impossible to be perfectly moral, even when the odds are stacked high, even when it feels like defeat could be certain. So let us do so with love. This is who we are, forged by heaven and earth, made of blood and bone. Our soul is divine. This is what we long for. This is what we dream. We'll never surrender and never give in. Blessed be. Amen.